Mike Johnson has the worst job in the world. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. I'm going to give you all the rundown on the big budget. That's going to be the next 2 weeks' news. I don't know how much of it I'll cover it until something changes. I only know Mike Johnson's in trouble because he needs unity. This is on the big budget. This is how you run the entire government. And our current pay money runs out March 14th. That's in just over 2 weeks. Here's Mike Johnson. We're going to go into the positive and the negative. People tearing into Mike Johnson. I'm going to cover all that so you know the entire story of what's at stake. He's getting flack from Republicans too. So let's watch this. Here he is on Twitter. The House GOP will take a key step to advance POTUS's full agenda this week. Passing a budget is not policy, but it brings us closer to legislation that will secure the border, restore energy dominance, prevent tax hikes, dismantle the deep state, ensure peace through strength. Let's get it done. Let's hear him in his own words. Here's Mike Johnson on his own Twitter post.
This week, the House is planning to vote on our budget resolution, which seeks to implement the president's entire America First agenda. The resolution is really an initial framework for the reconciliation process. All it does is it allows us to bypass the Democrat obstruction in the Senate. The budget resolution that we're going to pass this week is not a law in itself, and everybody needs to understand that. It's just the first step in the process that will allow us to keep moving forward. Now, once the resolution passes the House, of course, we have to work with the Senate because they passed their own abbreviated version of a budget resolution last week. We all have to work together, and everybody knows that, to implement President Trump's full agenda.
Is your brain glazing over? So is mine. This is very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, but stick with us. I think we're going to learn something by the end.
And that includes everything from the border to restoring America's energy dominance to preventing the largest tax hike in U.S. history, dismantling the deep state, and restoring America's strength on the world stage. We cannot risk implementing only part of that agenda because every piece is so important. Now, I have confidence that our Republican friends in the Senate understand the need to pursue President Trump's vision of one big, beautiful bill at the end of all this. That's why we keep saying it consistently. This week, we need all House Republicans to unite. We cannot allow anything to get in the way of us delivering on the mandate the American people have given us. We owe it to the people of this country to get this thing done, and we will.
No, I don't think this thing's going to get done unless Trump goes and starts twisting the arms of some people, because the Republicans are not united. They have different goals, different agendas, and it's not just because some of them are fiscal conservatives. And Trump's policy is not fiscally conservative. So guys like Thomas Massie are going to go, I'm not signing this bill. If it raises a budget or raises our debt in any way, shape, or form, even temporarily, I'm not doing it. Every time Trump says he wants a tax cut, let's say, I want no taxes on tips. That has to be paid for. The money has to be brought in from somewhere else for it to budget, for it to balance. So that's the problem you're going to have, herding cats. And Mike Johnson has the slimmest majority. So I predict it's not going to happen. You're going to have a government shutdown in March is what I predict. And then all non-essential workers will get cut. And frankly, I think all non-essential workers, that's not your military, that's not hospitals, stuff like that. I think everyone that's non-essential should be fired anyways. So I never mind when there's a closure of the government. But obviously that's going to be used by the mainstream media to target vulnerable Republicans in 2026. Now here's Newt Gingrich on singing the praises of Mike Johnson.
Well, it's going to take, I think, a real effort by President Trump following up on the extraordinary hard work of Speaker Mike Johnson. Look, when you only have a 1 or 2 vote majority, you have to really work hard for the last vote. But the principle is very simple. There are a couple of Republicans who don't realize that Trump's now president. They were used to saying no when Biden was president. They're used to finding an excuse to be against it. And that's fine if you're in the opposition. But now we're the governing party. And now they got to find a reason to vote yes. This is a very important test of whether or not Republicans in the House and Senate are capable of being a majority and governing.
They're not. With that narrow of a margin, you only need 1 or 2, maybe 3 to not be able to govern, not be able to unite. And that's the way our system works, ladies and gentlemen.
And I think Mike Johnson has done an extraordinary job with a pathetically small margin. And hopefully, with President Trump's help today, they'll find, they may not get all 3 of the ones who are currently holding out, but I hope they can get 2 of the 3 and get this thing through. Remember, This is only the beginning. Then they've got to come back and have a second vote on this budget. Then, a couple months from now, they have to vote on the big reconciliation bill. Every step of the way, the House Republicans have to find a way to get together rather than a way to split apart. And that's the key to being a governing majority.
Well, it's not going to happen. That's my prediction. I just think there's too many people have conflicting principles. They're not united in principle. So Thomas Massie has his own political theory. Margie Taylor Greene has her political theory. Trump has his political theory. And then there's Mike Johnson going to every state, everyone in your government going, what do I need to put in this thing for you to sign it? And Murkowski might have her thing, and everyone has their own agenda. So let's get to this article here. This is The Hill. Johnson searches for consensus on a budget resolution as opposition grows ahead of a key vote. This is today's article. There he is going, oh no, what am I going to do? Speaker Mike Johnson and his leadership team are feverishly searching for consensus on the House GOP conference's plan to advance President Trump's legislative agenda, which has thus far eluded the group as opposition to the blueprint grows. The scramble for support comes as Speaker Johnson is eyeing a Tuesday vote, that's tomorrow, to adopt the conference's budget resolution, which will lay the foundation for enacting a sprawling bill full of Trump's domestic policy priorities, including border funding, energy policy, and tax cuts that they want to make permanent. They have to put them into law so it's not just a presidential order. Quote, we're having very productive conversations, as you all know. This is all part of the process. And I think we're on track, Johnson told reporters as he left the Capitol late Monday night. We got the resolution through rules, and we're expecting to vote tomorrow evening. So that's tonight. That timeline, however, is facing serious headwinds as resistance to the budget resolution rises across the GOP conference. A concerning sign for Johnson as he looks to muscle the measure through his slim majority. Republicans can only afford to lose one GOP vote. One, and still adopt the resolution, assuming full attendance and unanimous Democratic opposition. As of Monday night, the number of GOP holdouts was far greater than one. The one end of the ideological spectrum are deficit hawks, frustrated with the level of spending cuts. Rep. Victoria Spartz, Republican of Indiana, announced over the weekend she was a no on the current version of the resolution. And Rep. Tim Burchett, Republican of Tennessee, said he was also opposed, but noted that his stance could flip if leadership reassured him that the conference will cut federal spending in the future. So they have to promise some cut spending somewhere, which we're not cutting enough spending. I'm getting spammed here. Additionally, Rep. Thomas Massie, Republican, he's going to be the biggest holdout. We've had him vote no with Trump already, who frequently bucks his party, wrote on X Monday afternoon, quote, if Republican budget passes, the deficit gets worse, not better, signaling he opposed the measure. In the late night post Monday, Rep. Warren Davidson, Republican of Ohio, declared there is no path to pass the House GOP budget plan until it includes the plan for all spending, indicating that he may vote against the resolution as Congress remains at odds over how to avert a government shutdown next month. Meanwhile, on the other end of the conference are moderates concerned with potential cuts to Medicaid. In the ultimate Trump agenda bill, a group has been sounding the alarm for days. The resolution directs the Energy and Commerce Committee, which has jurisdiction over Medicaid, to find at least $880 billion in cuts, which I think they can find in fraud and abuse. That's why they're doing all the research on payments going out to people that don't exist, which many believe can only be reached with significant slashes to the social safety net program. That's the threat by Democrats. Johnson House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Energy and Commerce Secretary Claire Brett Guthrie, Republican Kentucky, huddled with a cohort of centrists in the Capitol Monday night to discuss Medicaid, a conversation that appeared to move some moderates in the right direction, but did not seal the deal for the entire group. According to a source, Guthrie laid out a menu of things that can be done without touching a major social safety net program, such as ensuring that individuals who should not be on Medicaid are not beneficiaries, imposing work requirements, and rolling back parts of the Inflation Reduction Act, which Democrats passed in 2022. That was something Jim Jordan spoke about yesterday, is maybe you get Medicaid, but you have to have a work requirement. You have to go to work. In a positive sign for Johnson, Rep. Nicole Malliotakis, Republican of New York, who previously dubbed herself leaning no, said she was a lean yes after emerging from Speaker's office. Other centrists, however, noted the forward progress, but said they were not yet in support of the measure. I'm still in the undecided category. Rep. David Valadeo, Republican of California, told The Hill after the meeting, leadership is making every effort they possibly can to get this across the line. They're answering a lot of questions. They're addressing my concerns, our concerns. Medicaid, still for a lot of us, is a huge issue when we're just trying to make sure this does not affect our constituents. And we stick to the things that the president's been saying, the waste, fraud, and abuse, making sure that people who don't qualify aren't part of the system, he added. And I feel like the Speaker and Majority Leader and the whip are doing their best to get there, and I feel like they're making some headway. Rep. Ciscomani, Republican of California, who represents a purple district, similarly said, I think there's more conversations to be had, but reported a little more clarity on some questions I had, so we're moving in the right direction, he added. Johnson, though, still has his work cut out for him. To unite the centrists around the plan, Rep. Jeff Van Drew, Republican New Jersey, for example, told The Hill on Monday that he called Trump earlier in the day to express opposition to the budget resolution because of the potential Medicaid cuts, warning the president that he may vote against the measure. Quote, I called him to let him know I think it hurts him. I think it hurts the Republican caucus. I think it hurts working blue-collar people. It's too much out of that line item in energy and commerce, Van Drew said. I let him know that I may vote at the last minute. I might vote for it, but there's also a good chance I won't. Rep. Tony Gonzalez, a Republican from Texas, who leads the Congressional Hispanic Conference, told reporters on Monday he was a solid undecided on the legislation, citing potential Medicaid cuts and a desire for the group to be included in high-stakes discussions moving forward, so he hasn't been included. The stance followed a letter to the group sent to Johnson last week that warned about slashes to the social safety net program. I think we need more information, Gonzalez said. I think a lot of our members need more information. Johnson, for his part, has maintained that the Trump agenda bill will not gut Medicaid, especially after Trump said did not want to significantly impact the social safety net program. Asked about the potential cuts on his way out of the Capitol Monday night, and Johnson said Medicaid is not mentioned anywhere in the resolution. And so all these discussions about policy we had in weeks ahead of us as we came up to the actual legislation, he added, so everybody needs to understand that there's a lot of misinformation out there, but about what this is. The GOP's push to adopt a budget resolution comes as Speaker is looking to stay on track with the ambitious timeline you laid out earlier this year, which has the conference moving the measure out of the lower chamber by the end of this month. The resolution lays out a $1.5 trillion floor for spending cuts across committees with a target of $2 trillion, puts a $4.5 trillion ceiling on the deficit impact of any GOP plan to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, and includes $300 billion in additional spending for the border and defense and a $4 trillion debt limit increase. So we're going to increase the debt by $4 trillion. And that's what a lot of these fiscal conservatives are not. They're not going to go for $4 trillion more debt. Republicans on Capitol Hill are looking to use the budget reconciliation process to advance key parts of Trump's agenda, which, if successful, would allow the party to circumvent Democratic opposition in the Senate. The two conferences, however, must first adopt a budget resolution to unlock the process. The House Rules Committee advanced the measure on a party line vote on Monday night, last night. Johnson acknowledged the GOP holdouts put him in a difficult situation earlier on Monday when he made a prayer request in an event with Americans for Prosperity. Just pray this through for us because it is very high stakes and everybody knows that. Now you have the stakes of what's there, but there's more. I'm going to give you some of the people giving Mike Johnson some flack. Here's Maverick 1. House Speaker Mike Johnson trying to muscle a Republican budget blueprint passage this week toward delivering Trump's big, beautiful bill, $4.5 trillion tax breaks for wealthy, $2 trillion spending cuts, in Medicaid, et cetera. This is a Democrat saying this. So just so you can see the kind of heat Mike Johnson's going to get, that's the big picture from the Democrats. I have some Republicans giving him trouble too. Who? Margie Taylor Greene. Come on, girl. Here she goes. If Congress passes another CR, continued resolution, that is not a bill, but just enough to keep the government open for a couple months, right? If Congress passes another CR, that will be a continuing resolution that refunds everything in the previous omnibus, including all the garbage DOGE has been exposing and cutting out. So it could refund all of this stuff that DOGE is trying to pull out of our government. Government funding runs out March 4th. Beware the Ides of March. And then here's all the anti-Mike Johnson people. Benedict Johnson's clean CR means Joe Biden's 2024 budget will be Trump's 2025 budget without any of the DOGE cuts. Par for the course in Congress, anyone who votes for another CR, continued resolution, should be removed from office. Here's a must-read from the New Republic. Mike Johnson hits back at Elon Musk's attempt to kill the budget bill. This is dated today. Mike Johnson is trying and failing to maintain the appearance of budget unity within the GOP, and Elon Musk is making it harder. The looming Republican budget resolution is an attempt to pack Donald Trump's beefy agenda into one big, beautiful bill. But Republican holdouts, potentially influenced by Musk, have put that beauty in jeopardy. How will Trump feel about his buddy doing that? While Johnson told Political Tuesday he had no concerns and felt very positive about the reconciliation bill's prospects, other Republicans had different ideas. If the Republican budget passes, said Thomas Massie, the deficit gets worse, not better. That sounds bad, Elon Musk replied, reinforcing the MAGA wing's opposition to Johnson's version of the budget, which notably does not include the deep cuts to crucial programs that have huge standard of living effects, such as Medicaid. They want to cut Medicaid. MAGA wants to. Trump promised he wouldn't. And leaving the budget is a precarious, vote-lacking position. Of a three-word X reply from the country's most influential unelected civilian, Elon Musk seriously irked some members of the Republican Party. Quote, I hope we're not going to have this come to whatever is said on X to change months and months of substantive work to actually do this in a deficit-neutral way, Representative Blake Moore told Politico. I wish we were eliminating as much of the deficit as possible. What's missing from the X exchange is what happens if it doesn't pass. And we have the largest tax increase on lower and middle income Americans ever. We can't be so singularly focused on one aspect of this. At least two other representatives have said they intend to vote against the bill. They include Ohio Republican Warren Davidson and Indiana lawmaker Victoria Spartz, a diehard Department of Government Efficiency loyalist. So, Republican Party divided. Does it come together? I predict no. Will the government get shut down? I predict yes, unless Mike Johnson goes over to the Democrats and starts throwing cheddar around to get them to pass a temporary CR, continued resolution, to keep the government open for a couple months to buy time. Ain't no one going for it, guys. We're in fiscal trouble. Trump's going to have some real work to do uniting his party. Trump's got to get out, and Mike has to get his agenda on board with DOGE. I'm Doug in exile. Pray for Mike Johnson. Good luck.